So this is going to be another movie review. This one's called The Monster Walks, 1932. It was the B side of the Indestructible Man disc, which was a side A. This one was side B. 1932 U.S. pre-code black and white horror film directed by Frank R. Strayer. It's one of those so bad that it's good time movies. The ending deals with Darwinism. There's a black chauffeur dude who's who says his uncle looks like the ape in this movie or his grandpa or something. His grandpa looks like the ape in this movie. Didn't even put the ending on Wikipedia. I just spoiled the ending. Anyway. The film opens with Ruth Earleton and her fiancé, Dr. Ted Carver, arriving at her father's house. She has been told that her father has died and is returning to find out what will be done with the estate. They arrive on a stormy night and are greeted by her invalid Uncle Robert, the housekeeper, Mrs. Krug, and the housekeeper's son, Hans. While exploring the mansion, Ruth is dismayed to find a large ape her father used to conduct experiments in the basement. That's the Darwinian experiment. What evolution has to do with modern apes, we'll never know. But this movie seems to feed on the myth that human beings evolved from modern apes, which doesn't make sense. Anyways. Ruth and the others then gathered to learn how the Earleton estate will be divided. Earleton has left his estate to Ruth, but it will go to her Uncle Robert in the event of her death. Very small monthly sums are also left to the housekeeper, Mrs. Krug, and her son, Hans. These two are very upset about the small amount of the allowance. When Ruth goes to bed that night, a large hairy hand reaches through the headboard and attempts to strangle her. When she screams, it disappears. Her fiancé and Mrs. Krug arrive at her room and attempt to comfort her. Ted gives her a sleeping potion and she falls asleep in a chair in her room while Mrs. Krug stays with her, taking the bed. Bad mistake. Don't sleep on that bed. The hairy hand reappears through the headboard and strangles Mrs. Krug this time, killing her. Ruth awakens and alerts the rest of the household to what has happened. Afterward, Hans Krug meets with Robert Earleton in secret. He tells him that their plan to kill Ruth Earleton has failed and Hans has accidentally murdered his own mother. The hairy hand and the headboard. That was Hans. All right. He accidentally killed his mother because she decided to sleep in Ruth's bed for no apparent reason. Harris blames Robert for this, and after mentioning that Robert is actually his father, he strangles him as well, leaving him for dead, but he doesn't die. He's still alive. He's still breathing. He's just unconscious. So Hans thinks he's dead. Dr. Clayton visits Robert's room, and Robert regains consciousness. He tells Clayton about the plan he and Hans had to murder Ruth so that the estate would go to them instead. Cool plot twist. Clayton rushes out to find Ruth and warn her. She has already been taken to by Hans to the basement, though, where he attempts to force the ape to kill her. The ape turns on him instead, killing Hans. Clayton arrives to find Ruth alive and well. And there's no mention of the alleged racist joke at the end. That black step and fetch it wannabe dude. He's the reason to watch. He's trying his best to imitate Step and Fetch It. When did Step and Fetch It? Step and Fetch It. Started out in 1925. Good old Step and Fetch It. He kept going until 1976. Nice guy. There's Step and Fetch It, and there's another guy, Matin Moreland. Who else? Eddie Robinson? Is that his name? No, it's Eddie Rochester Anderson. That's the other guy. All right. So there's Eddie Rochester and Anderson, Step and Fetch It, and Willie Best. He plays Exodus as Sleep and Eat. Gotta love this stuff. The Monster Walks was originally distributed by Mayfair Pictures. It was re-released in 1938 by Astor Pictures, and once more in 1948 by Commonwealth Pictures. The film is widely available because copyright has lapsed, placing it in public domain in the United States and other countries. I think Cult Cinema Classics uploads all the public domain movies, because that's the link that I found in my description. It's Cult Cinema Classics, and they do all the old public domain movies, I believe. The sound in this movie is terrible. Even Cult Cinema Classics, which usually does a good job of cleaning up these old films, the sound is completely ruined. I don't think there's a decent copy of this movie with decent sound. And the film ends abruptly, too. It just shuts off. There's no the end or it just stops. There's no the end or rolling credits, I want to say. It just stops and it goes back to the main menu on the DVD. Overall, I'm giving the DVD 5 out of 5 stars. I love both movies, Indestructible Man and the Monster Walks. You gotta love these old horror science fiction movies from 30s and 50s. The bargain bin, as we say. All right. I rented a bargain bin DVD from Netflix. Cool. So Commando's on its way. Maybe I'll get Commando tomorrow. Possible. Tomorrow, Wednesday, I'm going to review Commando. So watch out for that later